I'm Lama Dawa Zangpo, and we're joined tonight with Tal, a relative newcomer and beginner to Buddhism, and particularly Tibetan Buddhist practice, and Michael, who is has a little more miles under his belt in terms of practice. So we're just going to dive right in. You, the viewer, please know you're welcome to submit any questions and join our discussion in the future. We'd love to have you. So Michael, I believe you had a question to kind of follow up with.
Yeah, Dawa said about I had more miles. You get more flat tires for all the miles you go. But here my question has to do. There's some word, I think you've spoken about it, Lama Dawa, in one of your talks about bodhicitta as an expression. But to me, it has some meaning about an open heart that in the deepest sense, in your practice to make yourself be a better full human being, whatever that really means, which I think comes to you as the years and time goes by. But at the same time, you have this deep, genuine, overwhelming desire that all beings have liberation and freedom from their pain and their confusion. And I think that's what they talk about when they talk about the real bodhicitta. And someone I saw wrote down some week or so ago, someone wrote down, I wrote it down because I relate to it. And it was, somebody said, I have a little bit of dislike for anyone who's not me.
Okay.
And I could really relate to that. And sometimes it's not as subtle as you wish it was, just a little bit subtle. So there's a lot to overcome to find some genuine, just like right with your every breath, you have this genuine concern for the well-being of others. And I think it's important to be able to develop that. And maybe you could talk about that whole idea and concept and desire and like that.
Sure. Well, thank you for bringing up such an important topic, and you really actually described it probably better than I can. The practice of bodhicitta is the heart of, we say, Mahayana Buddhism, the broad path. The whole dualistic thing of having a self that's separate from everything and everyone else does mean that there's a tendency to, it's not just an automatic thing to love and embrace everyone. So again, this notion of a practice, of a path, of a journey is to, we recognize our shortcomings, that we're not as loving and totally spontaneously present for others as perhaps we would like to in an ideal world. This is the Tibetan practice of exchanging oneself for others, is the same thing as the Native American statement of walking, in someone else's moccasins or shoes. So putting ourselves in their place. So what this really means from a Buddhist perspective is starting at least with an intellectual appreciation for the fact that we're all the same. In the sense, we're not the same, but we're the same in the sense that we all want the same thing. Everyone equally just wants themselves to be happy and safe and content. Everybody, everything that's alive wants that. So we're no different. And if we did put ourselves, or just as a thought experiment, intellectually put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and they're looking at us instead of us being in our shoes looking at them, what's the difference? Because then we're them. And them, now being us, if this makes sense, have the same identity, the same feelings. They want their family to be happy and healthy and safe. They want to have enough security. We want our family and loved ones to be happy and safe. We want security. What is the difference? Except we identify with ourselves. So the wisdom that starts to develop the understanding of non-self, of the unfindability, that this is an illusion, this idea that we have this self, this polarized, separate condition. It's wisdom that will develop into bodhicitta. And but we can do specific practices like the classic meditation known as taking and sending. The Tibetan is Tonglen, where we use the breath to visualize giving our happiness, our well-being to others. And on the inhaling, taking in the suffering of others. It's contrived. It's not uncontrived compassion. That's the sense of a path, is that we're working with contrivances to at least get further along and apply it in other situations. Now, there's another practice that's related that actually I think illustrates how important this is and how central this is to Buddhist and particularly Tibetan Buddhist practice, which is we have something called the 7 branch prayer. And one of the branches is called rejoicing, where as a practice, we cultivate an actual sense of taking happiness in the happiness of others. We're rejoicing in other people's happiness, other people's success. You know, there's kind of a Western or American tradition of competitiveness that we've all sort of inherited because it's a part of our cultural upbringing, where if somebody else is winning, perhaps that means that we're losing, or it's at our expense, or that the pie is only so big and somebody else gets a bigger slice of pie, there's less for me. So the altruism, the beauty of Mahayana Buddhism is we just give the whole pie away. And don't worry about ourselves. It's leaping into this whole different kind of mindset or heart set of just giving it to others. Ask the Dalai Lama or many great teachers. The happiness of others is greater and more important than ours, which is counterintuitive and goes against the grain and goes against our cultural upbringing, of course. And then, which is precisely the point. As I said in the previous video, really the point of Dharma is to turn our life inside out or upside down, reverse everything that we think of in terms of self-clinging and so on. This is a path of letting go. It's a path of relinquishing. It's the path of rejoicing in others, giving all, we say all victory to others and take all defeat to oneself. Easy words to say, incredibly difficult to do in reality, which is okay. We don't beat ourselves up. We go, you know, this is about the path of self-honesty and self-acknowledgement, and these are my shortcomings, not because I'm a bad person, but because I just inherited all this from our culture and from past, my own past habitual patterns and tendencies. So acknowledging and recognizing that that's the situation means we acknowledge we have work to do, which is great, because that's honest and true. And that's what this is about, being honest and true. And humility, we start with that. We are not perfect. However, we have perfect nature. Our essence is flawless, timeless, unbounded, unconditioned, all these fancy words, but we, through meditation, over time, they actually start to develop a meaning, a rich meaning. These are not just words. They're not just intellectual concepts. They need to become, the notion of a path is that these intellectual ideas and understandings become embodied in us. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes commitment. The other week, we were talking in our class about how much should one meditate? And I had mentioned, well, one great teacher said it takes about 4 hours a day of consistent practice to really overturn ourselves. And most of us don't have that in our lives. We don't have time or the whatever it takes, the commitment to do 4 hours a day. And it's not necessary. It doesn't literally mean you have to practice 4 hours a day. And if you don't, you're falling short. We do the best we can. And in our tradition of Kagyupa practice, we say we do short meditations, but we do them all day long. We do them consistently and constantly. We have many, many, many short little practices where we flash into a meditative state, as we were talking previously tonight, focused and clear and settled mind. And we do that over and over and over and over. And now, joining that with this notion of bodhicitta is many great teachers. And I'm thinking in particular of the third Karmapa, a very, very important teacher in this tradition, said that in the moment of breakthrough, in the moment of aha, in the moment of seeing clearly, seeing correctly, in that moment, unbounded compassion overwhelms oneself. Why? Because, as he said, in the moment of authenticity, and we realize our own true nature, simultaneous with that is the absolute realization that all beings have the same nature. And the important point, though, is that because they don't see it themselves, they are locked up, they are in the cage of their own ignorance, they are trapped, and therefore they are suffering overwhelmingly through sickness, through aging, through loss of loved ones, through letting go of their own life and body, through losing what they love, through not getting what they want. All the things, all the anxieties, all the stresses, all the fears and worries that are just part of our lives, they're stuck with all of that. And it's unimaginably profound, deep suffering. And if we don't continually, in my view, if we don't continually circle back to the truth of suffering, we are really in danger of missing the point and not practicing truly authentically, as deeply as we can. Because that is our tendency. We're going to cover up suffering. We're going to go into denial. We're going to suppress it. We can distract ourselves from it. We all do it. Obviously, myself included, everyone does it. It's just the default way we operate. This is a path of waking up. We are waking up to the truth, the rawness of life. The truth of life is suffering because we don't get what we want. We get things we don't want, like a disease or a hangnail or bad news from the doctor's office, whatever. It's constant. And if we have moments where we are happy, they don't last. The things that make us happy, they don't last. And I always say Buddhism is not depressing. And I have to say this. I've said this a million times, and I have to say it once again tonight. This isn't about being depressed and suffering and being a big bummer. It's about being truthful and honest about our cosmic situation as dualistic beings. But the real beauty is that we're not trapped and it's not hopeless and it's not all grim and suffering, because the real noble truth, the sort of final noble truth, is nirvana or enlightenment, the actual cessation of suffering, the ending of suffering, because suffering is not it's not truly our nature. So that may sound paradoxical. It is the nature of our relative unenlightened self, 100% absolutely. And 100% absolutely, it is not part of our true nature, our awakened true state of what we really are. And that's the whole point of meditation, the whole point of study, the whole point of listening and contemplating teachings. but it's about applying those teachings, which is done on the mat in meditation. Now, again, I'm talking from my lineage, my teachers, the Kagyu lineage that goes back through Milarepa and further. And this is the path of meditation as the tool, as the medicine to cure that illness. And that's what allows bodhicitta to flourish and fully express itself. Because the true state of wisdom is inseparable from compassion. You can't have wisdom without compassion. If you do, it's not true, real wisdom. And vice versa. Real, genuine, authentic, uncontrived compassion is itself wisdom. It's the true way things are. The true reality is unenlightenment is heartbreaking. And enlightenment is, you could say, enlightenment is bliss. We have to see clearly our situation and not put the cart before the horse, not be high and mighty, not be naive, not think there's easy, simple answers. We are where we are because of patterns from the past, the way we've always done things, the way we've always seen things, the way we've always thought things. We continue to see things and think things along those lines. And as long as we perpetuate the same patterns of thinking and seeing and understanding, we're going to have the same outcomes and the same limitations. Buddhahood is a state of unlimitedness. Now, I always say we don't need to get ahead of ourselves and really think about becoming unlimited. We just need to practice. And we need to keep our eyes open. And that means keeping our hearts open. It means seeing the people around us and not shutting them out and denigrating them or criticizing them or judging others. And it means we have to look at ourselves and see how our mind is continually generating opinions about things and judgments about things. And the thing about meditation is it's a state where we can objectively see how our mind is generating opinions and generating judgments and generating stories. And then we have the opportunity in meditation to cut through, to penetrate into the essence of those opinions and judgments and stories and see them for what they really are, which is that they are hollow. They are myths. They're not really real. They don't hold up to the scrutiny of your gaze. When you look deeply, penetratingly, honestly, clearly at our mind, at our thoughts, at our opinions, at our judgments, they do not hold up to the scrutiny of your gaze. As you look at them deeply, they don't hold up. They start to crumble, fall apart. We see a cloud from a distance, and it's solid and it has contours. And as you sail through it, it's just mist that disperses. Maybe you can find out if your thoughts are like that cloud. There's nothing there to hold on to, nothing really solid. And if there isn't, then perhaps the power it holds over us will start to fall away. I used to talk about the bumper sticker that we occasionally would see, which says, "Don't believe everything you think." In meditation, we have the opportunity to start to see clearly what we believe, and we can see if we don't have to believe what we think. That's called objectivity. The notion of a Buddhist meditator is one who is developing true objectivity. It's not even based on a philosophy or an intellectual understanding. True objectivity is beyond that. It's seeing and knowing what is for what it is with 100% perfect, pure confidence. And it doesn't err to any extreme. And if we really, as we develop our meditation and our insight, we start to see that pretty much every thought we have is a form of extremism. Because because we assume they're real. Just the notion of thinking things really exist in a solid way, whether they're external things or thoughts or the sense of self, those three things we talked about earlier, they don't hold up. They're not real in the way we, at first blush, think they're real. So I keep saying, I want to return to this theme. This is a journey. This is a path. And the way we tread this path is through meditation. I keep saying in the Kagyu lineage and in other lineages, but some lineages are more towards intellectual study. I don't teach that. I'm only teaching what I know, which is pretty limited, but this is what works in this tradition. So it's the only thing I have to offer. It's maybe not much, but this is what it is. But this is how we practice. This is a journey. This is for the long term, through the rest of our life. It's like I sometimes say, we don't leave the house in the morning without brushing our teeth. It's part of your daily routine. Meditation is the same thing, should be, I believe. It should be as unthinkable to not meditate during the course of a day as it would be to not brush our teeth. Just basic mental hygiene. And it's the hygiene of the heart. So that's what bodhicitta is embracing our real humanity, our fullness as human beings, is that we are capable of having a wide open heart that is loving and embracing of everything and everyone. From the biggest jerk we encounter to, everyone. In fact, I don't usually tell any personal stories, but this sort of relates to this. I was somewhere, it was just actually a handful of days ago, this last week, and I was talking to somebody. We were having a conversation, actually two people, there were three of us, and we were having sort of a little mini meeting. And this guy who was fidgeting around and stuff, and he had some agitation, and he just started talking and talking and talking, and he was very self-obsessed about his situation. And it was really quite obnoxious. He just didn't even see or care that we had a prior conversation and we were talking about things that were important to us. And he just started going on and on and on. And it was all about him. And, I could sense the people I was with were very uncomfortable. They finally excused themselves and got up and made an excuse to leave. I mean, this guy was, the word is a bore, B-O-O-R. Meaning a boorish person, somebody that's totally insensitive to others. He had no clue that there was anybody else in the universe except himself. These people left, and I said, I'll join you in a little bit. And I gave him the space to continue. I realized this guy has some problem, and I'm just going to, well, somehow I shifted my view from sort of going, wow, what a jerk, to this person, something's going on with this guy. I better just give him some space and love and listen. And it was heartfelt. It wasn't just an intellectual thing. I just said, okay, let's just see where this is going, kind of. He just clearly needs, I don't know. It wasn't even like I can help him or anything, because he's probably beyond help or beyond my form of help. I have nothing to offer this person, but maybe an open, non-judgmental heart. And his story got more and more involved, and he was losing his kids and his wife and all this stuff. And it was like, oh my God, it was like the worst things that could happen to a person. And I realized this person is really suffering. And 99% of people would just dismiss him as just, oh my God, get out of here, man. Who are you? Leave me alone. But it was very powerful. And at the end of that, I don't remember how it sort of concluded exactly, except I do know, I can tell you that the important part was, I had been sitting this whole time, and he's standing there pacing, and like I said, kind of agitated and going nonstop. I mean, I didn't offer anything to him. It wasn't like he even wanted to hear advice. He just needed to vent. And then I finally stood up and said, I sorry, I need to go, because I did. And he said, thank you for listening. And then this was just natural and spontaneous, but I put my arms around him, gave him a big hug. I said, you're going to be okay, or something. I don't remember what I said, but it was just the notion of hugging him. This person was so alienated from other humans. I'm sure the last thing he expected was for somebody to hug him, because I'm sure all he experiences is people rejecting him. He started to cry, and he was so appreciative, and it changed his whole vibe. Now, there's no moral to the story. There's no punchline here. I'm not patting myself on the back. It was an interesting experience. Rejoicing in others, even seeing others for who they are or what they're going through. I'm probably not doing this justice on any level with this story, but it was really something to see somebody that people would so reject because his behavior and his insensitivity to others was so strong. In the end, he needed a hug. He needed just to know that somehow, even through all that confusion, that he's okay, or that he can be okay, or that life works out, or that even this will pass. I hope through our practice, we all can give hugs when they're needed, or we can give whatever is needed to others. And it doesn't diminish us. It doesn't take away from ourselves. We don't lose energy. We're all him in our own ways, or have been, or will be, or could be. So bodhicitta is an expression of wisdom, of what is wisdom. Again, it doesn't mean being somebody who's knowledgeable in Buddhism or in some philosophy. Wisdom just means humility. It means just seeing things as they are. We say the naked truth, the unencumbered truth, things as they are, free from our judgments and our opinions. When I put my judgment and opinion mind about this person, I was able to just somehow sort of connect with him. I'm as far from enlightened or awakened as anyone. But hopefully there's some little thing in the path that is beginning to work that can allow us to express our own inner goodness, as Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said. He called it our inner goodness. And that's what it is. It's what we all have.